Anyways, going forth, I felt like on paper, my accolades were pretty loud. But as far as money, you know, I started making a 6-figure income. I thought I was balling, but really at the end of the day, I had aspirations of having a mansion, having Lamborghinis, Rolls Royces. I knew working for someone else, it wasn't gonna happen. I had too many bosses, everything else, and there was a lot of bullshit. I made a deal for somebody, but like, okay, check this out, you're under me, so I made the deal. And it's kind of like, you know how cats make beats and they don't get the credit because the main guy might get it. I'm not gonna say their name, right. That's, you know, that's how how things go. And I just finally felt like I hated the business side of it. So, you know, I shook.
I feel like that a lot of times.
Yeah, and I shook, you know, and you were still doing your thing, and I would see you, and I'm like, God damn, man, Steve is still doing this.
Yeah,
he's doing Red Bulls and cocaine. It's something that's keeping him going. So, you know, I just decided to take a year off. I was engaged. Only other time I've been engaged in my life, and I was like, let me go see the world. You know, I became a world famous sneaker collector. You know, at a point, I had a side business with a car company called F1 Motorsport. I've always been involved with cars. You know, I remember you was up there, and there was on some hater shit. And meanwhile, I'm bringing all these celebrity clientele. They weren't showing me no love. I mean, I had it all across the board from like Everlast, like, you know, just so many different people. And you know, I just said, you know what? I'm gonna retire from jewelry. I'm gonna retire from this bullshit ass sneaker game. Can't fuck with these corporations no more. I need to figure out what I need to do. So meanwhile, prior to Mr. Cartoon opening this little studio, he's a very inspirational, he's my mentor in life. He's a very inspirational person all across the board, from business to being a father to just being a fucking amazing person in life. Now, he's not just a person who tattoos 65, 70% of my body. He's a genius. Do you know what I mean? He's been involved, not just Soul Assassins. I mean, I can't even begin to break his resume down of what he's created in hip hop. You know, I mean, he made the Clips logo, Push It, and you know,
he's a great guy. So
he told me,
yeah,
he's opening a new store. Maybe I can be the concierge and kind of run this store. And then he sat down, thought about it. He thought about it. He said, you know what, Ben? I'm gonna keep it 100, dog. You can't work here. And I was like, what the fuck I do? I know I talk all the gang shit, but come on, man. I need something to do. I ain't doing shit. He goes, if I hire you to run this store, I will hate myself, because the potential you have in that mouthpiece and what you go, this ain't you, man. You need to go out and figure some other shit out. So, you know, I traveled. Meanwhile, my mind was fucked up. Broke off the engagement with the love of my life at that time. I thought, you know, we was gonna do it. I wasn't ready. That was like, what, 32? 33, I wasn't ready. I didn't even feel like I was really a man until right around then. So I jumped to China, stayed there for a little bit, jumped to Tokyo, was running around, you know, at the time me and Jonas became kind of best friends. And then, you know, I kind of like just marinated, was traveling, seeing, interacting with different cultures, seeing how much $100 in America, what that got you in, you know, in certain countries and third world areas. And I said, you know what, man? I got nothing else to do, man. I need to figure this out. At that point, the logical thing to do would be start a clothing brand related on sneaker shit. And a lot of my cats did it, you know, Crooks and Castles, Nick Diamond, the Hundreds. I just didn't want to go that route at that time. You know, people still want me to do it now. It's never too late, because I built such a name in streetwear. But it wasn't until I went to the Slauson and I seen my cousin. And I said, you know, I got some money, I'll buy some chains. I had a couple chains in you know, my early days of the music business. And, you know, chain meant you were successful. You know, you see Biggie with the Jesus pieces, that was a sign of success. If you put on a Jesus piece with gold Cuban, you was doing it.
Exactly.
Fat Joe, you was doing it, all these people. So I said, you know, man, I need to buy some jewelry. And then my cousin said, why don't you bring me some people? And then why don't you become a jeweler? Well, so why don't you, you know, we could get this going and blah, 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 whatever. And, you know, I took that chance, and real shit, the rest is history. That's how I got into the business, just off that one little conversation.
So, at the end of the day, look, man, like, you're hip hop, in my book, and you're definitely Asian hip hop. Represent for Asians.
Right.
And I travel the world, and I've been to the Philippines, and Thailand, and Singapore, and Korea, and Seoul, and China, everywhere. And I love Asia. So you represent that. And, you know, obviously Far East Movement came out and so on and so forth. And Asian people love hip hop.
Right.
And in the beginning of this interview you said, you know, there's depth in hip hop. And I always preach this. It's breakdancing, it's graffiti, and it's DJing. That's how it really started. So my thing is that I've never been engaged. I've never been married. I can't even keep a relationship because I have no balance. I look at people with children and I say, wow, I would love to have a child, right? To keep my legacy alive, and I think I'd be a great father. The other thing is, you touched about your mom. I lost my mom 3 years ago from colon cancer. It made me wake up and realize that life is more than just money and success and materialistic things. Now, I came to LA 20 years ago and I had no family out here, and I made friends, and I wasn't a blood in the crib. When my mother died, I woke up and realized, like, wow. And now at my age, I'm trying to find my best friend that maybe I can have some children. How did you do it and have balance in this crazy business and still have time to be a great father? Because I see you on Instagram and you're an amazing father, man. I believe 2 children, correct?
Yeah, 2 children.
So explain that, because like I said, Russell, Leor, Steve Rifkin, they couldn't keep their marriage together. It's very, very hard. That's why I salute Jay-Z and Beyonce. I want to know your take on this.
You know, I came in the game. You gotta understand, man. I think a lot of cats, and this ain't about talking about myself. It's you ask about myself, so I'm telling you.
Yes, it's about you. Just so you know, it's not cocky, confident.
No.
This is about Ben Baller, nothing else.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So I'm gonna tell you the real. Some people say, "Oh man, you name drop this." Dog, you asking me questions. I'm telling you what it is.
Yes, I want the truth.
So you know, at 12 years old, you know, I lost my virginity to a bad bitch. You know, I used to be on the bus and I'd see girls. I never had a problem getting a bad girl. You know, and I had no money back then. I had a cool mouthpiece, and I had a certain swagger that I walked a certain way.
Man.
And you know, I've always just been around girls. You know, I never really had too many serious relationships. I think I had 2 prior to my wife. You know, maybe 2.5 prior to my wife. And other than that, you know, I was a slut. I was out acting a fool. And as derogatory as that sounds about what's going on, people change. You know, people say, "Oh no, people don't change." For the most part.
Yes.
But you can when you see the bigger picture. So, you know, I was out running the streets, acting a fool. You know, I had groupies. I was traveling all over the place, you know, and it was beautiful. I didn't have to lock down anything. I had some, you know, open relationships here and there. But, you know, when I was locked down on that one thing, it was hard for me to focus on that and business. And, like, most of my friends' kids are in high school or about to graduate high school. You know, you look at Bun B, he's a fucking grandfather.
Yeah.
You know.
Lazy Bone's a grandfather. Run's a grandfather.
I mean, dog, I'm talking about Lil Wayne, he's younger than me, and you know, he's about to be a grandfather. Some crazy shit like that, you know. So I know I could have had a kid early, but I had a plan. But then the thing is, it got to a certain point where I was like, all right, 35 to 40, I need to figure something out. And you know, I wasn't in a rush, but I had been in a really shitty situation where I was blackmailed by a bitch. And people say, "Oh, why are you, you know, referring to you know, to a woman as a bitch?" That's exactly what she was. I can't really ever explain anything else. She was out to blackmail me, money, all kinds of things, family, and I was like, "Yo, man," I went through maybe about 4 months of the worst time of my life. On top of it being the worst recession, 2008 and 2009 were the 2 worst years of my life. No one's ever seen anything like it. I read an article that Hawaii Mike had wrote in LTD about no one in our family had witnessed this kind of recession. It was bad, you know, and I was like, wow, I was thinking, damn, I might have to quit. It was so bad. It was just, I mean, I know some people weren't affected, but it was bad as a motherfucker, you know.
The ups and downs.
And you know, I was taking care of a girl I was dating's kid, and I fell in love with this kid, man, and he wasn't even mine. I said, you know what, man, DNA don't have to determine the family, you know, love does.
Yes.
And you know, it got to a point where we couldn't see each other anymore. We couldn't be healthy. And I said, let me not do this to this kid, because he's 5 now. Let me let him go do his thing, because I don't want to fuck his life up, and let me find my own gem. Had that situation with the girl, went through court, everything else. Finally, I met a woman, prominent family, you know, Supreme Court judge in the family, senators, political ties, very humble. Not from a super wealthy family, just very good family values. Both parents still together after 40 years. I met her, things hit off. The moment we started dating, my business turned around 100, 200, 300, to a point where it was going 4,000%. She was my good luck charm. And I said, well, we gotta get married. Why waste time? you 14 years old, and then you 18 years old, and the girl's 22, and you're 22 and the girl's 18, and you guys date for 5 years. Oh, you might not know shit about each other, okay? You get 28 or 29, you become a grown man, you ain't gonna sit there and bullshit. Why would you could do in 1 year as a grown adult what these teenagers or younger people is doing in 4 or 5 years. So I said, man, I ain't got time to waste. And she didn't have time to waste. So we didn't rush in anything, but it was like, part of being an adult is letting it out there. So we was like, all right, I want to have kids, want to do this, that, and the third. And we went through it. You know, we've been together 5 years now. And, you know, we had our first kid. And I remember calling the Game. Game's like one of my little homies. You know, I remember Game before he got into business. I said, Game.
Good people, man.
I said, Game, what the fuck? He's like, hey, bro, life starts all over when the kid's born. I never understood that. I'm sitting in the operating room and the baby comes out, and my life stopped and everything. Like all the Lamborghinis and the Rolls Royces I got, them shits didn't make a motherfucking thing. The watches, that right there was like, wow, I waited this long because I wanted to be established. See, a lot of people, if it got to a point where I wasn't established, I wanted to have a kid regardless, we gonna make it happen, and people just do that. You see Mexicans out here, got 5, 6 kids, don't make fucking $10,000 a year. They make it work. Did a second kid, you know, work. Now work had to take a second, you know, had to take a back step.
Right.
Thank God I'm a CEO, I own my own business, but my priorities have to really change here and there. Here's my top, you know, my A list, and then here's my B list, and then the rest I ain't got time for.
Taught yourself balance.
Yeah, you know, and the balance between the kids, because you gotta remember at 6:30 in the morning every day, my son wake up. He don't give a fuck about Jay-Z. He don't give a fuck about none of this other shit. He wants to see Mickey Mouse. He wants his waffles, and he wants his water. So every morning that I'm in LA, which is at least 85% of the year, even though I travel a lot, I'm talking about, he's the first thing he sees as soon as he opens his eyes in the morning at 6:30, and at 9 o'clock, he's the last thing he ever sees. So I'm very involved in their lives, and I've had to take a few things back, meaning I'm not just going to deal with MC such and such. I'm not going to deal with this person. You know, now Mac Miller, Tyler the Creator, ASAP Rocky want to deal with me. Yes, I'm going to deal with that. I don't want to delegate that to my cousin who might fucking not know how to speak and get starstruck. Right. And this basically, I've just learned to balance, but that is my key. Those are my little princes, my little kings, and
it was hard to balance, right? It's very hard to balance, and I'm still trying to teach myself that. But you know what? Watching you, because social media, and watching Game, watching Damon Dash, Jermaine Dupri, Crazy Bone, and watch you guys be fathers is amazing. And you said to yourself, like, yeah, you were a slut, you ran around. I traveled the world. I met so many women. I could have ran through everything, but I had some integrity with myself, not saying it's good or bad. I just couldn't keep a relationship because I didn't have that balance. And hopefully, now at my age, I will find that person that God will bless me with and have some children and keep my legacy going. So I salute you for that, because like I said, like, you're a great father, and now you know what your priorities are. Fuck the Lamborghini, fuck the Rolex, fuck the clubs. It's about now family. So I love that, and I salute you for that.